Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a lot of installs on this car. I'm going to be doing an external wastegate, front mount intercooler, blow off valve, and fuel system upgrades. So we're going to do the injectors, the rails, the lines, and we're also doing TGV deletes. I'm going to be doing a video on all of these parts. I'm going to do separate videos for each one. And before I get started, let me just go show you what I bought and what I'm going to be putting on this car. And then we're gonna get straight into it. So let's go see the parts. All right, so here I have a table of parts that we're gonna be putting on this car. We can go ahead and start with just the front mount intercooler. This is an ETS front mount intercooler. It is 4 inches, it's a big boy. Here's all the couplers that's gonna be going onto it. Here we have the Grimspeed external wastegate. And it comes with a tile or teal, however you wanna say it, 38 millimeter. That's what's gonna be going on. I also have this blow-off valve. It's a tile Q atmospheric blow-off valve, or vent to atmosphere. Here we got Cobb fuel lines. All these are going to be going on. The Perrin turbo inlet. This is a 2.4 inch, so just a standard for a stock turbo. Here we got torque performance TGV deletes with the spacers. Here's the gasket. Obviously new gaskets for the up pipe. Let me show you what we got right here. Okay, so this is the dump tube to the external wastegate. Definitely want to have one of these on your car, otherwise you can have that black smoke and stuff going all over your car, and it's really not good for it. Here we have the Cobb fuel rails. Not really much to show here. These are going to be going on. We have 1050X injectors. Here's an internal wastegate bracket to close it or keep it shut. Oh yeah, and I wanted to show you guys really quickly. So for these front mount intercooler pipes, they originally were powder coated black. But, you know, given the channel name being Be Above Average, I don't want them to be black. I want them to be something else. So I'm going to show you guys what they are right now. Here's a sneak peek, or, you know, first look on what color I painted them. Here they are. I tried to match the color of the Brembos as much as I could. This is what I came out with. I had them powder coated by M&M Powder Coating by Fruit Valley in Vancouver, Washington. So if you guys want something like this or anything powder coated, hit them up. They're very nice people to work with, and they'll definitely hook you up. Can't wait for these to get on the car. All right, enough talking. Let's go ahead and start installing all these parts. Let's get to it. Before I do any installs on this car, I'm gonna take off the front bumper because I'm gonna be doing the front mount intercooler, and I don't want to scratch anything while leaning over the car. So what to do here, on each side of the bumper, there's gonna be this little clip right here. What you wanna do is push that in with the flathead or something similar. Then you're able to pop it out. Like that, that's what it looks like. Make sure not to lose these clips. Next, there's gonna be more clips underneath the car. So there's gonna be this clip right here that you wanna remove. Get a flathead. Should be able to come out like that. As you can see, the bumper's loosening up now. You wanna move alongside the bumper, you wanna remove this clip and this one right here. Now alongside the bottom, there's gonna be more clips. Like such. You want to remove all of those. All right, now we got this clip right here. It's right in the center of the bottom of the bumper. From all the dirt that comes up here, these can be kind of hard to take out. Try not to break them unless you have new ones to replace. And then last but not least, got the same push type clip. You just push it in, and then you want to push it out. So after you've got all the clips from around the bumper, the bottom and the side, you want to grab these top ones. There's going to be clips and bolts. These are 10 millimeter bolts, and then these are just clips, the same ones that you're removing. So you could either use a tool to remove these, like this, kind of push them up, or you can use your finger and push up from the bottom, since there's a leverage down here. Now, you have to kind of push these in halfway to actually fully pull them out. Otherwise, they don't want to come out all the way. So make sure you do that. Next, let's get these 10 millimeter bolts out of here. Start with this one. Now you can put all this in a safe spot. All in the same pile. Now this bumper is just about ready to come off. You might want to grab a partner for this, or you can do it by yourself if you're experienced. Go ahead and start peeling it away from the car. just like this on each side. So once you kind of got that side unclipped, just kind of grab it, pull it out and towards the car, and it should come out. Just like that. There's a lot of clips in here that are holding the bumper in, as you can see. So don't be scared to give it a nice pull, but just be careful because that side will fall off. So. Now, I don't have fog lights. A lot of people do have fog lights, so make sure that you unplug your fog light before fully removing the bumper, or you will damage something. So there's the bumper out of the way. Here's a pro tip. During this whole install, I will be using Ziploc bags and a Sharpie, labeling and marking where I remove the bolts and where they go to, because I do want to put the same bolts and clips into the same location. And I do not want to lose anything. Put all of them in this bag and put them in the location where they're not going to get lost. The next thing we want to do here is relieve the pressure in the fuel system, because we're going to remove this battery, and that's going to be the last chance that we have to do this. So what you want to do is remove this fuel pump or fuse cover. That's what you want to do. There's these 2 tabs on each side that you want to push in. That should come off like that. And then this should be your fuel pump fuse. It's the number 15. This is a 2018 STI. We're going to take that out. We're going to start the car and we're going to let it die off. If it even starts. It might not even start because this car hasn't been ran in a couple hours, but we'll see. I'll try one more time just to make sure. Yeah, it's not starting. We're good. So what I'm going to do is with this fuse, so I don't want to lose it, I'm going to put it in this holder right here. And then put this back on with the cover on it. Just don't forget, when you're fully finished with everything, you want to put that fuse back where it's supposed to be. Start or cycle the fuel pump a couple times and then start the car for the first time. After tuning it, make sure you tune your car. We're gonna go ahead and remove this battery now. Get this out of the way. Remove this section. Now my battery has this little holder, and yours might not. Now we pretty much have to start getting things out of the way. To do this fuel system, or to do the fuel injectors, the fuel rails, and the lines, with the TGV deletes, I do have to remove my manifold. So everything has to come off, or pretty much out of the way. We're gonna start off with taking off this intercooler and my Cobb SF intake, and then we'll get into the actual disconnecting of the lines and everything else that's pretty important. All right, so I'm gonna remove this SF intake, get this little area freed up for myself, and then I'm gonna do the intercooler. So let's take off this, get a flathead screwdriver and kind of just push up on it. So you got those off, and this should be able to slide right out. Let's put that off to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this MAF sensor from the intake. It's just a push type clip. Push on that and disconnect it. Then there's gonna be these, there's a bracket that holds my SF intake. You can see it's these. I think these are 10 millimeters. I'm gonna take those off. Now you want to grab a flathead and loosen up these couplers off of the turbo inlet. And there goes the intake. This airbox does need to come out as well, so let's do that. Go ahead and take this intake out, or airbox. All right, now it comes to removing this top mount intercooler. There's gonna be these 2 12mm bolts on this bypass valve. There's gonna be one on this side, one on this side right here, on this bracket. Then you wanna get the coupler coming off of the throttle body. Take both of these off. And then there's gonna be, right there where the turbo is, you wanna take off that coupler as well with the Phillips, or with the flathead screwdriver. So let me start by removing these bolts. All right, so you want to grab that bolt down there. Grab your flathead and take these off, or loosen them up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, make sure your engine is cold when you're doing this. A lot of hot areas that you're going to be near and touching. Don't want to burn yourself. I will actually recommend taking off this bracket as well, so it gets out of the way. It'll help the top mount intercooler coming out. Now you can finally take all this top mount intercooler off completely. Just kind of separate this. I have an air oil separator. You guys might or may not have this, so it might be a little bit easier for you guys to remove it. I have kind of these hoses I have to work around now. You want to do that, take the hose out. And this is where you kind of want to grab the intercooler and start wiggling it off the throttle body and the turbo. So kind of wiggle it back and to the right. Now it should be able to pull off. There we go. Move this on.
Voila.
She's off. All right, so after you guys remove your intercooler, your top mount, and your intake and your battery, you want to take a lot of pictures of what the vacuum hose routing looks like and just every connection for reference for when you're putting this back together, just in case you lose track of something or you don't know where something goes. You can refer to this video and to your pictures and you can put everything back to how it was. So just do that, kind of like I am. Take lots of pictures. I'll throw some pictures up like I took, and then we could continue with removing this manifold. Let's do it. All right, so what we're gonna do next here is I'm gonna remove this bypass valve just because it's bulky, it's in the way a little bit and I don't need it anyways. So I'm gonna take this zip tie off and then this hose clamp right here, and I'm just gonna pull this thing off. So next we're gonna remove this coolant overflow reservoir. You wanna take off these two bolts. I believe these are 12 millimeters. Then you wanna take out these hose clamps, there's 3 of them. And then you wanna drain this coolant into just anywhere. You wanna drain it somewhere because there is gonna be coolant in here. Also, when you remove these lines, there's also gonna be coolant, so watch out. So what I'll do first is take these bolts out. And there's actually one more bolt right down here I forgot to mention. I'm gonna go ahead and take this hose clamp off. I think it's gonna be a little easier. So I'm taking off the top coolant hose from my air to oil separator and the reservoir. And I'm gonna get a rag just in case. Don't want excess fluids going everywhere. Just gonna drain a little bit like that for a second. Let's take these hose clamps off of the top of this. For a second, I'm gonna put this on while I take these off. We're gonna go ahead and remove this one right here as well. It's probably gonna start leaking a whole bunch from this coolant reservoir just because it's very annoying to tip it. So I'm just gonna take this off and then just have it all drain down and hopefully catch into here.
Just pull it over as best as you can.
So there's all the coolant in the reservoir. Just wanna take it all out. I just put this off to the side with all the brackets that you took off so you don't lose anything. All right, once you guys got that done, we're gonna be moving on to the next step. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and remove my Grimspeed electronic boost control solenoid. So one of the connections is gonna be right here off of the turbo inlet. You're gonna go take one off of the wastegate nipple and then off of the turbo as well, right here. If you can see that. And all these hoses I'm actually gonna replace, so I could just chop them all off if I wanted to, but I'm not gonna do that. So there's one. Take one off of the wastegate. And then the turbo. Now we can go ahead and remove this cover and remove my boost controller. There's gonna be a 10 millimeter bolt right here. There's gonna be a 12 right there. And you also want to take out the bolt that's holding this sensor in. It's also gonna be a 10. Now I can finally get to my boost controller that is tied in with the 10 millimeter bolt. Then just take this connection, push down right here, and pull it out. And there's my electronic boost control solenoid fully disassembled. Then you can go ahead and pull this thing out of its little bracket, or off of the hose right here, and put this off to the side as well. Put all the bolts in a bag, and just label this the boost control solenoid cover. So what we're gonna do next is remove this hex bolt that is holding in the turbo inlet to the manifold. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. Next, we're gonna go ahead and remove this vacuum line off the intake manifold. So usually, gotta spin it loose a little bit and just pull it right off. Put it all off to the side. All right, next we're gonna remove this 12mm bolt off of the purge valve, also held on to the intake manifold. Just grab a 12mm, just break it loose and remove it. And there we go, that got disconnected. Do not lose these bolts, you know, make sure you're putting them in the right spot. Next, we're going to disconnect this vacuum line that comes off of the top of this turbo inlet. Pull it right off, like that. And these, you shouldn't really get these mixed up because they're different sizes, so you don't have to label these. But when it comes down to hoses that are the same size or that look the same, you might want to label them on where you removed it from. Next, we're gonna go ahead and remove this alternator cover. There's gonna be a 10mm bolt right there you wanna remove, and then there's gonna be a clip under here that I'm gonna show you how to take out. So once you got that bolt out, depending on what model you have, you might either have a clip under here or you could just pull on it. So take a look underneath. For this one specifically, I just have to pull. So just pull on it and it should just come out like that. But some people do have a clip, so do not break it. We're going to remove this hose right here off the turbo inlet. It's a PCV hose. I'm gonna try to pull this off. You might have to cut off that clamp if you can't get it though. Let's see what we can do. It's moving a little bit. So after getting this clamp off, that's what it looks like. This clamp is on there, good. Remove this little connector because it's in the way from my IAG air to oil separator. Just push that connector in to pull the two lines apart. So it's this connector, so you don't get confused. Next, we're gonna remove this ground 12mm bolt. That's off, put that somewhere safe. Next, we're gonna remove all of these sensors. So we're gonna remove this MAP sensor or map sensor, and then the upper and lower coolant hoses down here, along with this sensor over here. So all these need to get removed right now. So first, we're gonna go ahead and remove this sensor. There's 2 Phillips head screws. These are small, so put them safe. Now we got this sensor out. I put it off to the side for now. You gotta take this bottom or this top and this bottom coolant hose. Grab some pliers. Go get a rag just in case there's some coolant in these lines. Not much. It's good. Same with this bottom hose. So when you get lines that have like coolant or anything running through them, just put a bolt in there to keep it from leaking, and then you'll just remove that later. And now lastly, we have this sensor right here that we would like to remove. So you want to squeeze this little tab on the side of it, and it should pop right out like that. Now all of these have been disconnected. You could put a bolt in here too, but I don't think it's going to leak too much, so it's fine, just leave it how it is. Next, we're going to remove this 12mm bolt holding this little plate on there or metal bracket. After you do that, we're going to disconnect these 3 fuel lines. This is where you might want to label them, so I'm going to go ahead and label them before taking them off. Just put a piece of tape on every one of the lines. And then for this third one, I won't get it confused because I know it's much different, so I'm just gonna leave that one without a piece of tape, but I'm gonna write number 1 and number 2 right here. Now let's remove these. I have aftermarket fuel pressure regulators, so mine are really easy to remove. I just have to push these in and take them out. I actually need a rag for the fuel. But if you have the normal fuel pressure regulator on your car, you do want to get that fuel tool that kind of goes in, and then it pushes the clips in so that way you guys can pull this out. I don't have that right now, but I do have a different video on my channel when I do the fuel pressure regulator, so you guys can see how I removed it. And just push these in, pull it out.
And he would improvise, so if you don't have the tool, you can refer to his video and see how to do it without that tool, because
exactly,
a lot of people will feel like they can't do it otherwise.
Now, if you remember when we took out the fuel fuse and then we ran the car, that took out all the pressure out of the fuel lines. This is why there's not that much fuel coming out right now. If you didn't do that, there's gonna be fuel spewing out, a lot of pressure. Now this last one is just a hose clamp on here. So after you take off that hose clamp, just kind of get a little flathead to assist in pushing this hose off, but just be careful. So just pull on it pretty hard. They're usually seized on there pretty good. So there you go, all of these are pulled off. And again, just put them off to the side so they're out of the way. Now we're gonna be disconnecting these hoses. This is the brake booster hose, and then this is just the plug that I plugged off when I did my fuel pressure regulator. I guess this can technically stay on because this will just remove with the intake, but you might have a hose, so just remove this one. This will go to your fuel pressure regulator. Take that off, and then just pull this one off as well, just like this. So next you want to remove this zip tie right here that's holding this wiring harness to this fuel rail. Get your cutters in there. Look at that, they couldn't even cut it from the factory. So this is kind of in the way to get into our TGV and to some of the bolts. So we're gonna try to remove this and get it out of the way. Let's take this cover off, 12mm bolts, 10mm bolts.
Yeah, keep pulling. There you go. Just pulled out of there.
So after you get that cover off, you got some more stuff exposed. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this wire harness. Just kind of push up on this part. Same with this one over here. Just kind of take it off of it. So after you got that out, just to give it some more slack, we're going to remove this bolt right here, this clamp, this hose clamp, and then there's two more bolts right here we're gonna remove.
What size are these bolts?
And this one, 12mm. So we're gonna remove these. I'm gonna do the hose clamp and then I'm gonna do the last bolt. Maybe I should do the bolt first actually. Change my mind.
It's coming.
Now we have just one more electrical connector right here. After you remove that, you finally have access to this 12mm bolt that we do need to remove. So go ahead and take that out. There we go. So now we're going to move on to the passenger side, and there's going to be this TGV harness connector that you want to remove. So there's going to be a tab on the very bottom of it. I'm going to push that tab and then pull this out. Like that. See that tab? So we're going to remove this 10mm bolt. This is holding the TGV motor on. You know, do your best to get in here and
Not have it at an angle.
there's one. There's gonna be one on the bottom side as well. Not sure if you guys will be able to see it.
It's that bolt right there, back there, that little silver head.
All right, so to get this bolt out, you want to make sure you're moving this hose clamp out of the way so it's not, so the lips to this hose clamp is not getting in the way of the ratchet. Then I'm using a swivel ratchet to get the good angle on it. And after doing all of that, the bolt should be coming out. So after you take those bolts out, you want to remove this TGV motor. You want to be careful, pull it straight out. If you're not replacing your TGVs, then you do want to be careful with this part because this is where the motor, where there's gears in here and you have to put it in the same location that it came out. See how it's it's got gears? You always got to make sure not to spin those in accident and put it back how it's supposed to. I'm actually removing this and the TGV, so I don't need these anymore. Now we're going to remove this 12mm bolt holding on this fuel line to the manifold. Hope this line does not get in the way of removing this. And it does, I love it. So I'm removing this bracket because I need to get this banjo bolt out where the oil line is and take this bolt out. So I have to do all this just to get this damn bolt out, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So we're gonna go ahead and take this bolt out, this banjo bolt, or not this banjo bolt, just this bolt right here that's holding the fuel line on. Once we do that, I'm gonna show you guys how we did it. So what we did so far to remove the little bracket right here, there's gonna be some bolts that go right down here that hold the bracket on. And you wanna take the bolt off from here, and then the two bolts off from right there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the bracket sits like this, sits like that. You wanna remove that bolt right there, and then this bolt right here. And then for this thing to be able to move around like this, there's gonna be bolts on the end of it. Right down there, see where the two holes are? The hole right there, and then one down there. Those are the 2 bolts you want to remove. That way this thing has some slack. Now we're able to move this. Now, how we please, just enough to get that room to get a socket in there. Get this bolt out, and then just really quickly, we're gonna lift this, move this out of the way, take this bolt out. After we remove that, we're gonna put everything back. See how this line moves now? Now we could possibly get this bolt out, so we're gonna try that. So here's the banjo bolt removed. Make sure you don't lose that little washer. Now as I'm pushing this to the side, he's trying to get that bolt out. So right now I'm just putting the banjo bolt back on. So now we finally got that bolt out, and that's what we were trying to do this whole time. So mission accomplished. So moving on, we're going to remove the bolts off of the passenger side fuel rail. So there are those bolts right there. You guys can see them. They're gonna be 12mm bolts. Put all this in a bag, label it intake manifold. What I'm gonna do really quick is just take this throttle body off of the intake manifold. I'm gonna do that really quick. They're just 10mm bolts, very loose on here. Push this off the manifold. Since everything's disconnected, you can take this completely off the car. Now we want to remove the driver's side as well, so same thing. There's gonna be 2 12mm bolts. So we're currently taking the alternator out right now. We took the bolt out from here, right here, and then we're gonna take this one out just so we can move it, because there's a bolt right underneath here. There's also a bolt right underneath the intake right there, manifold. And that's the last 2 bolts that hold this thing in. There you go, you can just move this off to the side. Don't even have to disconnect anything. So we just removed this alternator. It's just the 3 bolts. There's 2 bolts right here and then the one right here. Then you just want to lift it upwards and put it over here. This is going to give you clearance. And there's a bolt right under here that we're going to get. I'm going to pull it out and show you what it looks like. Here's the bolt that comes off the bottom of the manifold. There's one more directly under here. Take off this hose right here off of the intake manifold. It's a vacuum hose, so just get like a flathead or something in there that would help. Just take it off like that. All right, we're also gonna take off this bottom hose on the intake. There you go. Okay, so that's good. So here's that bolt that I'm talking about that holds underneath the manifold. You wanna grab that. You just want to break it whatever way you can, and then it should be able to come out with your hands. So after you got all of those connections disconnected, this should be pretty free and getting ready to get removed. So let's see if I can get this out right here. You kind of have to move your wires around and anything that's in the way. So now let's go ahead and try to get this right side off. So just kind of get one side, and then you're able to lift this up and maneuver it around. So that right there is how you take out the manifold. All of that for just this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take out these TGVs.